My father stood between us like a judge. On his right was my husband. On his left was my younger sister. Then my dad said the words that split my life in two. "From today," he said, voice calm and cold, "this man is no longer your husband. He belongs to your sister now." The room went silent. I felt my knees shake. My ears rang. I looked at my husband, waiting for him to laugh, to say this was a bad joke. But he did not laugh. He did not speak. He did not even look at me. Instead, he lowered his head and stepped closer to my sister. That was the moment my heart broke. My own father handed my husband to my younger sister. 3 years after I married him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to wake up from a nightmare. But before I could say a single word, my sister reached out and held my husband's hand. And he held hers back. I opened my mouth to speak, and that was when everything changed. But before I tell you what happened next, stay with me. If stories of betrayal, secrets, and justice pull at your heart, like this story, watch closely. Like, subscribe, and stay with me, because what came after this moment shocked everyone, including the court. Now let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Hannah Miller. I was born into a family that looked perfect from the outside. My father, Richard Miller, was a respected man. People listened when he spoke. People trusted him. My mother died when I was young, so my dad became everything to us. There were 2 daughters in the house. Me, the older one, and my sister, Emily, the younger one. Growing up, I was the quiet one. I followed rules. I helped at home. I tried hard to make my father proud. Emily was different. She was loud, bold, and always got what she wanted. If Emily cried, my father rushed to her. If I cried, my father told me to be strong. Still, I loved my sister. I protected her. I shared my toys. I trusted her. That trust would later destroy me. When I was 26, I met Daniel Brooks. Daniel was kind, or at least that is what I thought. He spoke softly. He smiled gently. He said things like, "I will always protect you," and "You are safe with me." I believed him. My father loved Daniel from the start. Too much, if I think about it now. They talked for hours. They made plans without me. But I told myself I was imagining things. We married in a small church. I remember holding Daniel's hand, thinking my life was finally beginning. For the first year, things were good. We laughed. We cooked together. We dreamed about kids. Then things slowly changed. Daniel began coming home late. He guarded his phone. When I asked questions, he got angry. When I cried, he said I was weak. My father always took Daniel's side. "A wife must be patient," my father said. "A good woman does not ask too many questions." Emily moved closer to us around that time. She said she wanted to help. She cooked meals. She cleaned the house. She sat close to Daniel when I was not looking. I noticed it. But when I spoke, I was told I was jealous. So I stayed quiet. Year 2 was worse. Daniel stopped touching me. Stopped looking at me. Some nights, he did not come home at all. When I went to my father for help, he told me to apologize to my husband. For what? I did not know. I started to feel small. Invisible. Like I was disappearing inside my own life. Then came year 3. The year everything fell apart. One morning, my father called a family meeting. He said it was important. His voice was serious. I thought maybe Daniel and I would finally get help. Instead, I walked into the living room and saw Emily sitting beside my husband. Too close. My father stood up and cleared his throat. He spoke like a man reading a rule, not like a father speaking to his child. "Hannah," he said, "you have failed as a wife." I felt my chest tighten. "Daniel deserves peace," my father continued. "Emily understands him better. She will take care of him now." That was when he said it. That was when he handed my husband to my younger sister. I remember laughing. Not because it was funny, but because my mind could not understand what was happening. Then I started to cry. Daniel said nothing. Emily smiled. My father waited for me to agree. But something inside me snapped. I looked at all 3 of them, and for the first time in my life, I did not feel weak. I felt angry. I opened my mouth to tell them they could not do this, that this was wrong, that I was still a wife, still a daughter. But before I could speak, Daniel turned to me and said words I will never forget. "Hannah," he said, "sign the papers. Make this easy." That was when I realized something terrible. This was planned. All of it. And as I stood there, shaking, my father reached into his folder and pulled out documents. Divorce papers. Already signed. Already dated. My hands began to shake as he placed them on the table. "Sign," my father said again. That was the moment I knew my life was about to change forever. Because I was not going to stay silent anymore. And just as I reached for the papers, the police sirens began to scream outside the house. The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows like angry eyes. Everyone froze. My father's hand stopped midair. Emily let go of Daniel's hand. Daniel's face turned pale. "What is this?" my father asked, his strong voice suddenly weak. I did not answer. I could not. My heart was beating too fast. Then there was a hard knock on the door. "Police. Open up." My father looked at me, his eyes sharp, almost warning me. "Hannah," he said slowly, "what did you do?" Before I could reply, the door opened. 2 police officers stepped inside. Behind them was a woman in a dark suit, holding a file close to her chest. She looked straight at me. "Mrs. Hannah Brooks?" she asked. I nodded, my throat dry. "I'm Detective Laura Evans," she said. "We need to ask some questions." My father quickly stepped forward. "There must be a mistake," he said. "This is a family matter." Detective Evans did not look at him. She opened her file. "We received a report of fraud, emotional abuse, and forced signing of legal documents," she said calmly. "The report came from this address." Emily gasped. Daniel backed away slowly. I felt everyone's eyes turn to me. I wanted to say I was sorry. I wanted to say I did not mean for things to go this far. But the truth was I had meant it. Because earlier that morning, before the family meeting, I had finally done something brave. Let me tell you what led to this moment. The night before, I could not sleep. Daniel had not come home again. Emily was in his room. I knew it. I felt it in my bones. I stood outside the door, listening to their laughter. That was when the last piece of my heart broke. Instead of crying, I grabbed my phone. I checked Daniel's emails. For months, I had ignored my instincts. That night, I followed them. What I found shocked me. Daniel and my father had been planning everything. The marriage, the control, even the divorce. There were emails about money, property, and how Emily would replace me. Replace. Like I was nothing. I saw bank records. My name had been used on loans I never agreed to. My signature was copied. My credit was destroyed. That was when I called a lawyer. And that was when I called the police. Back in the living room, Detective Evans turned to Daniel. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "we need you to come with us." Daniel shook his head. "I didn't do anything wrong," he said. "This is a misunderstanding." My father stepped in front of him. "You will not take my son-in-law anywhere." The detective finally looked at my father. Her eyes were cold. "Sir," she said, "you are also named in this investigation." Emily screamed. "No. My dad would never." "Emily," my father snapped, "be quiet." But she was already crying. The officers moved closer. One of them reached for Daniel's arm. That was when Daniel finally looked at me. "Hannah," he said, his voice shaking, "please, fix this. Tell them it's a mistake." For 3 years, I had begged him to choose me. Now it was his turn. I looked him in the eyes and said, "No." The word felt powerful. "Free." Daniel was handcuffed. Emily collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "You ruined everything," she screamed at me. "He was supposed to be mine." Those words cut deep. Detective Evans turned to me again. "Mrs. Brooks, we will need a full statement." I nodded. The next few days were a blur. I gave my statement. I handed over emails, messages, bank records. Everything. Daniel was charged with fraud and identity theft. My father was charged with helping him. The man I once trusted more than anyone sat across from me in an interview room, staring at the table. "You betrayed your own blood," he said quietly. I leaned forward. "No," I said. "You did." Emily stopped speaking to me. She told everyone I was a liar. Some family members believed her. Others did not. I moved out of the house. I slept on a friend's couch. I cried myself to sleep most nights. But something strange happened. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Weeks passed. Then months. The court date was set. I walked into the courtroom shaking, but my head was high. Daniel avoided my eyes. My father looked smaller than I remembered. Emily sat behind them, glaring at me like I was the enemy. The judge listened. The evidence spoke. Daniel was found guilty. My father was found guilty. Sentences were read.
Prison time.
Heavy fines. I thought that was the end. I thought justice was done. But I was wrong. Because as I walked out of the courtroom that day, a man I had never seen before stepped in front of me. He smiled slowly and said, "Hannah Miller, you don't know me. But I know you." My heart dropped. Before I could speak, he leaned closer and whispered, "This is not over. Not even close." My stomach twisted as the man stepped back into the crowd. For a second, I thought about chasing him, asking him who he was, demanding answers. But my legs would not move. Fear held me in place like chains. This is not over. Not even close. His words echoed in my head all the way home. That night, I locked my door twice. I slept with the lights on. Every sound made me jump. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it for a long time before answering. "Hello," I said. There was breathing on the other end. Slow. Heavy. Then a voice. "You should have stayed quiet, Hannah." The line went dead. I dropped the phone. For a moment, I felt like that broken woman again. The one who had been controlled, silenced, and pushed aside. But then I remembered the courtroom. I remembered Daniel in handcuffs. I remembered my father being led away. They had tried to destroy me. They failed. I called Detective Evans right away. She told me to stay alert and report anything strange. She also told me something that made my chest tighten. Daniel had help, she said. People who didn't want this case to come out. I asked her who. "We're still investigating," she replied. Days later, I found out who the man was. His name was Mark Lewis. He was Daniel's business partner. A man my father had trusted with money, secrets, and lies. Mark had lost everything when the case went public. His accounts were frozen. His reputation destroyed.
And he blamed me.
That was when the pressure started. Strange letters appeared in my mailbox. No stamps. No return address. "You stole what was never yours. Blood will answer blood." I stopped going outside alone. Then Emily came back into my life. She showed up at my door one evening, eyes red, face thin. She looked nothing like the smiling girl who once held my husband's hand. "Hannah," she whispered.
"Please.
I need to talk." Every part of me wanted to slam the door. But she was still my sister. I let her in. She sat on my couch, shaking. "Mark has been coming to see me," she said. "He says this is all your fault." I crossed my arms. "It is not." She nodded quickly. "I know.
I know now."
Daniel lied to me too. I waited. Emily swallowed hard. He promised me marriage, a house, a future. Then he went to prison. For a moment, I felt something close to pity. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Mark says there is another way to fix everything." I leaned forward. "What way?" She looked at me, eyes wide. "If you take the blame." The room went silent.
"What?"
I whispered. "He wants you to say you forced Daniel. That you lied. That you planned everything," she said, crying now. "He says if you don't, someone is going to get hurt." I stood up. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "Get out," I said. Emily reached for me. "Hannah, please. Get out." She left crying. That night, my car would not start. The next morning, my tires were slashed. Fear followed me everywhere. Detective Evans put me under protection. I gave another statement. Mark Lewis became the main suspect. Then something happened that shook me even more. My lawyer called. Hannah, he said slowly, there's been a new filing in the court. My heart raced. From who? From your father, he replied. I laughed, bitter and broken. What does he want now? He's claiming he was manipulated, my lawyer said. He says you planned everything. He wants a reduced sentence. My chest burned. Even from prison, my father was still trying to destroy me. The trial reopened. I had to face him again. When I walked into the courtroom, he looked at me with eyes full of anger, not shame. You did this, he said under his breath as I passed him. The judge allowed new testimony. My sister testified. She lied. She said I was jealous. She said I wanted revenge. She said I forced Daniel. Each word felt like a knife. Then it was my turn. I stood up, hands shaking, and told the truth. Every ugly detail. Every email. Every threat. The courtroom was quiet. Then my lawyer played a recording. Mark Lewis's voice filled the room. If she doesn't take the blame, he said on the recording, we make her disappear. Emily's face turned white. My father slumped in his seat. The judge ordered Mark's arrest immediately. I thought it was finally over. I was wrong. That night, as I walked back to my car, someone grabbed me from behind. A hand covered my mouth. A voice whispered in my ear, "You should have listened." Then everything went black. I woke up to pain. My head was pounding.
My mouth was dry.
My hands were tied behind my back with rough rope that burned my skin every time I moved. The room was dark and smelled like dust and oil. I tried to scream, but a cloth was tied across my mouth. Fear rushed through me like ice water. I remembered the voice. You should have listened. Mark Lewis. The door creaked open. Light spilled into the room, hurting my eyes. A tall shape stepped inside. It was him. Mark looked calm, almost bored, like he was doing a normal job. He crouched in front of me and smiled. You really don't know when to stop, he said. I tried to speak. The cloth muffled my voice. He pulled it down just enough for me to breathe. Please, I whispered. Why are you doing this? Mark laughed softly.
Why?
Because you ruined my life. Because you sent powerful men to prison. Because you made noise when you should have stayed quiet. I shook my head. They did this to themselves. He stood up and kicked a chair across the room. No, he shouted. You exposed them. And now you will fix it. He walked back toward me and held up a phone. Tomorrow, he said, you will record a video. You will say everything was a lie. You will say you planned it all. And if I don't? I asked, my voice breaking. He leaned down until his face was inches from mine. Then your sister will pay. My heart stopped. Emily. I cried. Mark smiled again.
Yes.
Blood for blood, remember? Tears filled my eyes. Emily had lied. She had betrayed me. But she was still my sister. I could not let her die because of me. He left the room, locking the door behind him. I cried quietly in the dark. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. I could not tell. Then I heard something. Sirens. At first I thought I was imagining it. But they grew louder. Shouting followed. Footsteps. Heavy ones. The door burst open. Police. Don't move. Mark shouted. I heard running. A loud crash. Then hands were on me, but gentle this time. Hannah, a voice said. You're safe. It was Detective Evans. I broke down. I cried like a child, like the little girl who lost her mother, like the woman who lost her marriage, like the daughter who lost her father. Mark was arrested that night. This time, there was no escape. The evidence was strong.
Kidnapping.
Threats. Recorded calls. Messages. Everything. Emily was brought in for questioning too. She did not look strong anymore. She looked scared. In the interview room, she finally told the truth. Mark scared me, she said, crying. He said he would hurt me if I didn't help him. Dad told me to listen to him. He said Hannah deserved it. That hurt more than the ropes. My own father had pushed my sister to help destroy me. The new trial came fast. Mark sat in court, his hands shaking for the first time. My father sat beside him, eyes empty. Emily sat behind them, silent. I testified again. This time, I was not afraid. I told the judge about the kidnapping, the threats, the lies. The court listened. Mark Lewis was sentenced to prison. My father's sentence was increased. Emily was spared jail, but the judge ordered her to stay away from me forever. When it was over, I walked out of the courtroom alone. The sun felt warm on my face. For the first time in years, I felt free. Or so I thought. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. No return address. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 5 words written in black ink. You still don't know everything. At the bottom was a name. Daniel Brooks. My heart dropped. Daniel was in prison. Or, at least, that's what I believed. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered slowly. Hannah, a familiar voice said. My blood ran cold. It was my husband's voice. I told you, Daniel said calmly. This isn't over yet. I dropped the phone. My whole body went cold. Daniel's voice played again in my head, calm and sure, like he was standing right beside me. This isn't over yet. For a long time, I just sat there on the floor, staring at the wall. Then something inside me changed. I was done being afraid. I picked up the phone and called Detective Evans. Daniel just called me, I said. He says he's free. There was a pause on the line. Then she said quietly, I was hoping you'd call. My heart pounded. What do you mean? Daniel was moved last week, she said. Not released. Transferred. But someone helped him disappear for 12 hours. 12 hours. I whispered. Yes, she replied. And in those 12 hours, he made calls. One of them to me. The police moved fast. They traced the call. They found the car he was using. They followed the money trail he thought no one could see. Daniel had help. Not from Mark. Not from my father. From someone I never expected. The next day, Detective Evans sat across from me with a file. Hannah, she said, are you sitting down? I am, I replied, though my hands were shaking. She opened the file and slid a photo toward me. It was Emily, but not the Emily I knew. This Emily was smiling, standing beside Daniel, holding a bag of cash. My chest hurt. She helped him escape, the detective said. She planned to run with him. I closed my eyes. Even after everything, she chose him again. The police arrested them that night at a bus station near the border. Daniel tried to run. He did not make it far. Emily screamed when they put the cuffs on her. She called my name. She begged. I did not go. This time, I chose myself. The final court case was quick. Daniel was charged again. Escape, threats, and more fraud uncovered during the search. His sentence doubled. When the judge spoke, Daniel finally looked at me. His eyes were full of anger. You think you won, he said. I stood up. No, I said calmly. I survived. Emily was sentenced too. This time, there was no mercy. The judge said she knew right from wrong and chose wrong. My father never spoke to me again. Months passed. I changed my name back to Hannah Miller. I moved to a new city. I found a small job, then a better one. I made friends who listened. Friends who did not silence me. One evening, as I sat by my window watching the sun go down, I thought about everything that had happened. My father handed my husband to my younger sister. He tried to erase me. They all did.
But the truth came out.
And the truth saved me. I smiled softly for the woman I used to be and for the woman I had become. Because this time, the story did not end with betrayal. It ended with justice.